How's everyone doing today? My name is Joshua, and I'll be talking to you guys about an article called A Tiny Island Off the Coast of Maine Could Be a Renewable Energy Model for the Rest of the World. It's by Stephanie Bouchard. So, before we get into it, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I graduated December 2019 with a bachelor's in public health, and I'm currently working on a second degree in mechanical engineering. I'm an avid advocate and follower of green energy companies such as Solar City, Tesla, and Barkhouse. If you ever heard of Barkhouse and you're interested in electric energy, I do recommend that you check them out because they're responsible for creating all kinds of 100% eco-friendly homes. So, back to the article. The purpose of it is to describe the important innovations that are going on Isla Haut that Stephanie believes will change the way we handle energy in the future. She breaks it down into four subcategories: cost, storage, reduction of waste, and artificial intelligence. I must point out ahead of time that most of the creations here, most of the technology used to tackle these problems, are not necessarily new, but the way that they are incorporated together, the way they work cohesively, is what is new and novel. So, let's talk about cost. The situation on the Isla Haut is that they're a small island off the coast of Maine, so it's hard to get energy there. Their solution up until now has been running wires along the ocean floor to bring energy to the island. It's not necessarily very reliable, and it's very uncost effective because it's very expensive to keep maintenance up on those wires. To handle that problem, they created something called a microgrid. The microgrid is a self contained energy system that allows them to both gather energy and transfer the energy across the city in a self contained way. When thinking about ways to gather such energy, they had a couple of different options. They had micro turbines, wind turbines, and solar. They decided on solar first and foremost because it ended up being a lot cheaper than the other options, as well as the traditional methods like fossil fuels. Other benefits included low maintenance cost. So solar panels typically don't really break down, so they don't have to spend too much in terms of repairs. Um, Low production cost, so they tend to be fairly cheap as far as things go. A lot cheaper certainly than a wind turbine or something like, or a water generator or something like that. And less pollution. So when I say pollution, I do mean carbon dioxide and methane, but also things like sound, which many city urban environments have to invest in sound dampening materials as to not interfere with people's day-to-day lives. The second um, subcategory of this innovation was energy storage. So most cities and large companies that produce their own energy typically use lithium ion batteries to store that energy. Problem with that is that when one battery is full, you often have to use another battery, and like the battery in your cell phone, oftentimes those batteries will start losing the ability to store energy over time, which leads to a lot of waste and a lot of chemicals that need to be dealt with, as opposed to what they used, the supercapacitor. Supercapacitors last a lot longer because they don't rely on a chemical exchange for energy. They're more recyclable, once again, because less chemicals, and they're fairly size efficient. So, with all that being said, we move on to reduction of waste. So they found with the supercapacitors and the solar panels that they actually ended up having an excess of energy. So a good problem, but a problem nonetheless because they needed a solution for what to do with all that extra energy. And what they decided to do was use that extra energy to actually install air to water heat pumps. So I don't know if you're seeing a trend here, but when you use green energy and you have too much of it, you can then reallocate it to other resources like heat. So now they're not only independent when it comes to their energy source, but now they can use the excess energy from that independent energy source to provide themselves with heat as well. And what Stephanie believes is probably the most important part of this entire system, the most important innovation here, is the application of AI and computers into their energy system. So using AI, they have been able to integrate it in such a way that it can tell when they need to use solar energy, stored energy, or energy from something like a generator. And it can do that based on trends of energy usage and other factors. And the AI, best of all, the AI does it all by themselves. It's not something that a human needs to manage. The AI can switch, can tell when to switch, and switch by itself. So to conclude, the microgrid project is an innovation combining pre-existing separate technologies as well as AI to create a new way of managing energy systems. And this is why Stephanie believes that this is going to be the blueprint for how we use energy and deal with energy in the future. It's a novel method by dealing with energy storage, waste management, artificial intelligence, and costs. The author believes that cities will adapt this in the future. I should probably add that the Energy Coalition of Maine has actually invested $65,000 into this project because they're curious to see what's going to happen, and they're going to be sharing, the island of Haut is going to be sharing this information with them so that they can hopefully adapt this to a larger scale for a larger city in Maine. So here are my references. As you can see, this is simply the citation for my article and a web page for the 7 benefits of solar energy if you're curious what the benefits really are, if you have any projects in mind for yourself. And with that, I will say thank you and invite any questions. Feel free to reach out to me via email or text message or through the discussion board in class. Thanks, guys, and I hope you have a good one.